Peter Fernandes, thank you so much for being here on behalf of the Nantucket Athenaeum and myself, and thank you for everybody who's attended. I appreciate that as well. The first thing I'll probably start off with is, is it okay if we could talk a bit about your upbringing and kind of like what brought you to Nantucket?
Sure. First, I'd like to say is thank you very much, Dakota, for inviting me for this meeting and making this happen.
Yeah.
And also, last minute I postponed the thing, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm just going for a week away.
Yeah.
But yes, so I grew up in Goa, India, which is a small state of Goa now. It became the youngest state of India in 1982, but it was under Portuguese for 400 years. And I came across people from Nantucket Island Resort in my dad's restaurant where I was helping him. And I happened to meet them. I had no clue that they were from Nantucket. But I helped them in all different ways and showed them Goa around, and also they were always in the restaurant. And so they offered me to come to Nantucket and work, since Goa is seasonal, and the way the seasons work, it just, because Goa shuts down for the monsoon, which is the summer here. So and I didn't really think that I would come to Nantucket. But they quickly got me a visa. That was the year 2000. And so I got a visa. I flew to Boston. In March, I was on Nantucket and then started to work, So that's how I got to Nantucket.
Yeah. Growing up, because forgive my ignorance, but it's like Fernandez isn't a very, it doesn't sound like a Indian last name. Is it more Portuguese? Or
It is Portuguese.
Okay.
Since it has 400 years of history with Portuguese, so all the names are Portuguese names,
Okay.
in Goa. So when the Portuguese first came, they just took over the place. Goa is a peninsula, so they came with ships and just took over the place, kicked out the Indians, and they had a choice. They could either convert to Christian, or they just pushed them inland, and they control the coast. So I grew up in a fishing community, like right on the coast of Goa, which is Arabian Sea. Yeah.
Growing up, what was it what are some of your fondest memories growing up, and what was it that your family did?
My family my dad was in Africa back in the days, East Africa in Kenya. He was there for 20 years. And then he came back to Goa where his mom was. And then he bought a little place and started up a restaurant, a small restaurant, he leased it. And then eventually, and he was mostly catering for the backpackers.
Okay.
Mostly Europeans and maybe few Americans. But back then, Goa was like a big hippie happening place, and everyone was coming there to smoke, and the police had no clue, and they were doing all these drugs and rave parties. And so Goa is known for that kind of stuff, the whole of India was under British, and Goa was detached, so it was under Portuguese. So that's the difference between, and now it's part of India.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so growing up, did you help out in the family business?
Yes, yeah. So I was always schooling and coming home. So our house was attached to the restaurant, and it was always something to do there. And so my dad bought this property. I was probably 12 years old. There was, it's right on the beach, probably like Jaddy's right now, the Jaddy's restaurant. I don't know what it's called nowadays, but I think Sandbar. Yeah. So same distance, there's nothing in front, just the ocean and just the shoreline. But so he bought this place. There was no electricity, no water, and no road. And everyone was telling him, this is like a jungle, why are you here?
Yeah.
So he put up a little dwelling, and he got a hand pump, how they have pump water. So we used to wake up early, pump water, fill up big containers for the day, and just keep moving. So first 3 years we had no electricity, and then he paid for these 13 electric poles to get the electricity. It was 2 kilometers away, So so things started to happen, but now there is like 2 resorts there, and it's totally different place, you know.
Wow, that's incredible to see the difference over time.
Yeah.
And so growing up, did you help out more so in the restaurant, or did you just anything that your parents needed help with was the case?
Yes, always in the restaurant, you know, from going to shop for, you know, for the different things. Most particular was the one fishing, like the fish was, you know, always, and my dad always went to the market and got the fresh fish, and it had to be processed, you know, and then it goes on the menu, you know. This was like daily thing, you know, so we always there was stuff to do. So I was one of the 4 siblings, just me and 3 sisters, you know. So they all helped. We were all there, and we had few employees, and my dad was the chef, you know. So I was always, so in the restaurant I was always cooking, helping him, or in the front. I was doing like all sorts of things, you know, from the beginning, and that's the way we were brought up, you know. We always had to just keep going.
Was there a feeling for you that you wanted to like get out and see the rest of the world, or did you expect to kind of stay there and either take over the business or be with your family in the area, or did you know that you kind of wanted to get out?
I know from day one I wanted to get out.
Really?
Yes, yeah. And you know, like in school, whenever I had this geography class and they talked about all these countries, you know, it was just fascinating for me. I just wanted to go. I didn't know, you know, if that was real or not, you know, but hearing was one thing. But so after I was done schooling, the first place I went was Cayman Islands. I was 19, I was there for 3 years, and then I really had good time there, and I was done with Cayman, and I came back to Goa. I started helping my dad back again. We built up a new bar, and you know, so I was like more into the restaurant and more dealing with the bar and the customers, and you know, so it was going really good. And that's when I came across with these people from Nantucket, and they offered me a job, and you know, and I was kind of like, you know, I wanted to start at that point something of my own, you know. And my dad had a story, you know. Okay, he was in Africa, and you know, I wanted to have my own story. I wanted to start my own book, and so I was like, you know, I didn't know what I was saying, but that was like the big picture in my head.
And when you first came, what was your first summer out here?
It was 2001.
Oh wow! And so, did you just summer out here, or did you immediately go into trying to live here year round, or did you just? How did that work?
So I was coming here on the H-2B visa.
Okay. Yep.
So it was a seasonal visa.
Yep.
And so I came here only for the summers, and I went back end of October sometime. And the visa was good till December 31st, but the first few years I just went back October. And so the first 2 years when I came here, 2001, 2002, I worked at White Elephant, you know. I took care of all the lobsters and steaks with Chef Neil and Chef Don Culp. And so that year, the first year, I really wanted, the other side of me, I always wanted to do construction. You know, even back home, my dad always had like, have me paint or do something, and I really enjoyed it, you know, or tile. And so I always was thinking I wanted to do construction. And so when I came here, I started to look for construction work, you know. And so I saw an ad on the paper, and I contacted that person, and his name was Peter Boynton. And so I ended up working for him for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
You know, and he taught me a lot of stuff. And then his son opened up a really big construction company, and we started to build big houses. And that's where I got like a lot of experience, because they have carpenters coming from off island, and you know, I got to meet a lot of people, and you know, it was a great experience.
And what do you think your reasoning to always, why were you so interested in the building side of things, or constructing, in like, or being in construction or carpentry or any of the other trades? Where did your passion come from, do you think?
Okay, so when I was schooling, I went to technical school. So also I learned at early age, I was learning, you know, electrical, carpentry, fitting, I have plumbing. I learned all those things, but not to the full-fledged, but just the basic. And that really, those were my favorite subjects. And I really focused, and I really was already messing up things at the house, and there we have 240 volts. So it's not like here, 120. And I got zapped a few times, and it really shakes you up. So, when I came here, it was like, okay, this is easy. This looks a lot easier and doable. So, and back home it's all with concrete and bricks, and here it's wood. So to me, I looked at it like this was a lot easier to deal with. So I just love doing that stuff.
So did you went from the White Elephant, and then you proceeded to go into kind of in the construction field? And did you have when you first came out, your first summer, it was, 2-3 years at White Elephant?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
And then you moved on right into construction?
So I was doing construction. The construction was doing good, it was paying the bills. The White Elephant had me the housing, and I was working at night, so that worked out really good. But I didn't get the visa for the third year. For some reason, I never got the visa. So my construction boss, Peter Fernandes, I called him and I listen, I don't have a visa, and this is in January. And so he's like, okay, let me go look, I know somebody. So he went to Matt Fee, owner of Something Natural, and Matt Fee got me a visa quickly, Yeah.
And so then you started to work for Something Natural?
Yes, yeah.
And how long did you work for
Something Natural?
Yeah.
Since 2003.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Till date, I'm still working there.
Yeah, I know. Still this day. And you're on I guess you could say you're kind of there.
Yeah, I love it.
You're kind of like Something Natural's project man. I don't even know what you call it. It's like such a whole, you do everything.
I don't know. Well, I started doing all the prep in the kitchen, and then start fixing things, and Matt is really good because if he tells me something to do, I just can't tell him no, because there was a lot of things, on the line, because my housing was there, I was living with them, so I felt like I had a lot of responsibility, and he got me on the island when I needed. So, to me, it's like I don't know what to say. I don't know the word to say, but
obligated or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm there.
Yeah. When did you go from working in construction to kind of doing your own thing? And
so when Peter Boyden left the island, I was managing that's the construction part. I was doing all his caretaking, so I was working for him. And so when he left the island, I think it was 2012 or maybe 2013, somewhere around there, he left. And so he gave me some of the houses to caretake, the clients, which I already knew for, already 10, 12 years. So I got those clients, and I started to, on the side, I was just doing whatever, opening and closing up the houses, and whatever minor things they needed. And I felt like I could do a little bit more. So, and then Matt started to give me a few projects here and there. So I started work for him, doing construction. And in the year 2007, I got the construction supervisor's license, but I didn't do much with it. I got the license, and I was still working as a worker for many years because I wanted to gain more experience and keep moving. In the meantime, I got married, I had kids, so there was a lot of things happening, and we got a house here, so and then I was still working for Something Natural. I never gave up, and so there was always work in construction. I think it was always there.
Did you always kind of know that you wanted to eventually have your own thing and kind of, I don't want to say be shackled by somebody else, but just did you know that you wanted to be your own general contractor, do your own projects, and not have to be involved in a company over time, or did it just kind of happen?
It kind of happened. I didn't plan for it. I had the license. People started to come. Oh, you have a license. Can you do this? And to me, it is like, if I do something, I got to find the right person. It's like both ways for me. And just not one-sided. So if somebody wants me to work for them, I am really, and if I have the time, I'll say yes. But if I cannot do it, then I can't. But I always give Matt something natural first. I work there, so I have to do that first. And so right now I have a couple guys who are helping me out. So we have a good team. And I just last winter I did 3 houses. Like shingling, doing the roofing. One whole gut job from inside out, and so I'm gaining traction and. These guys who are helping me are really nice people, and I love it. I love it. It keeps me busy and keeps me out of trouble, and I just love it.
What are some of your favorite projects to kind of work on? Is there anything anything, or is there specific things you really enjoy?
I just like to challenge myself, I just don't like to do the same thing again. I just want to move on and do different stuff. If I have to go back and come back and do for another place the same project, I don't mind. But I just don't want to do roofing all the time. Yeah. I have the whole experience in building a house and doing all sorts of things. So I just if I look at a project and if I think I can do it, I'll just take it.
I've heard that your attention to detail is impeccable from various people. It's always like, I feel like I've heard it a few times. What makes you so detail driven and so, I don't know, perfectionist? I don't know, or just need to have, such an intense attention to detail? Has it just always been with you, or is it something you gained?
I think it's always been with me, Even back home when I was with my dad, he always said, that's on the books, you cannot do that,
Yeah.
But, that's too perfect. But in my head, there's nothing that is perfect. Even if I do something that is perfect, to me it is not. In my head, it's, okay, I could have done that a little bit, but I try to do the best.
Do you find that the field you work in, do you have an even workload throughout the year, or do you feel like you get more in the summer or more in the winter?
I think more in the winter.
That's a good thing, at least. At least you can kind of have the summer to be not as crazy hectic.
I like to keep a little bit of slack for the summer because there's always something or somebody will call, and if I have extra time, that goes for fishing. I love fishing, so I'll put my time over there, but I like to keep that slack in the summer.
I had heard, or I had seen that you had won I think it's a preservation award from the Nantucket Preservation Trust for your work on, I don't know the actual name, but the Orange Street property that
79 Orange, yeah. Flock.
Yeah, on Flock. Yeah. You had won. Was that were you surprised to have gotten it, or did you have to put your name in, or did they just do it on their own, or?
I think it was on their own. I think Matt had to do something with it. I'm not really sure how the process worked, but I was there with Holly, my wife, and Matt and Sheila was there, so it was good.
That must have been very to see.
Yeah, and that really boosted it up, and and this is a small island, and so the word went around, and
What was the work that you had done to have earned an award exactly? What was the project you undertook there?
I think part of it was the facade, which came from 106 Main, and it was sitting at Coffins Yard,
Yeah.
And so it was all falling apart, so I had to replicate the pieces and put it back up. So it's the facade you see on the flock, the front of it. So, when Matt bought that place, it was the bake shop before. So I picked up the facade from Coffin's place and took it inside the shop, the bake shop, laid it down and copied all the pieces. There were some which were good, which we used, but some of them had to be replicated, And so I think that was the main.
Was that your first work on a project in a preservation nature? like in
Yes.
that regard?
Yes.
Was it trickier or different than most projects, or was it?
Yes, it was. It was kind of tricky, but you know, I had to pay more attention to detail, and you know, make sure that things were the same. You know, the same pieces went back, which were on like rotting out. You know.
Yeah.
So, and also had to make sure that everything was gonna stay intact for another 20, 30 years. You know.
Do you find that after having done a project with preservation, do you find that you really enjoy things of that nature, or is it just another piece in the puzzle for you, just another thing you like to do? Did you find the work to be, I don't know, I don't want to say grueling, but is it harder or is it more enjoyable, I guess?
It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
I like the challenging part. You know, so when I see something that is falling apart, you can only make it better.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, it's already on its way out. Now it's, you know, if I take that project, I'm only gonna make it better. You know, and there is, you know, it always becomes, you know, in a way it's challenging, but you can do it better. You know. Yeah.
That's fair. Did you find the process, I don't know if you had to do it prior hand, like working for others, I don't know much about it, but is the process of going through Nantucket's rules and whatever regulations to either work on a property or go through the zoning board you have to go, what board is it you have to go through for whenever you have to either renovate or even build on a property?
Yeah, so it's a two-step process. The first one is HTC.
Yep.
So you have to file everything, show them the plan, and you have to get approval from HTC. Then you can apply for the permit.
Do you find it to be? I know that some can find it to be just. There's a lot of things you have to do specific on Nantucket. You know, X, Y, Z.
Correct. Yes.
Do you find that to be troublesome, or do you?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's a good thing. And I always recommend wherever I pick up a project, most people don't want to get a permit. I always convince them you need to get a permit. Otherwise, it cannot work for you. You know, so that's number one. For me, it is like, first of all, I'm doing the work right. I want to know myself that it's being done right. Tomorrow, when they sell the place, they shouldn't have any problem. You know, even if you do addition or whatever you're doing on your house without a permit, I think it just creates a problem. That's where you're gonna have problems when you're selling. You know.
Going back into your time as a general contractor out here, just I don't know what you want to call it, everyman, a general contractor. I don't know. It feels like you've done a little bit of everything out here.
I think there's still a few things that I need to do.
Really?
I don't know yet what they are, but I feel like I'm missing. You know, I just, whenever I'm on the bike riding, I feel like I just look everywhere. This place is too beautiful. And I think there is something else that is missing. I feel like I haven't taken all the steps.
Is there any of your favorite projects you can think back on, either that you've handled yourself or you've done for work for one of the companies you've worked for in construction?
Well, lately I did a project for this guy in Nantucket, which turned out really good. And I think that's the latest. Like, the house was like really in a worst case, you know, like falling apart and needed a rehab really bad. And it turned out really nice, you know. And I think I really like that place. And also, I think Ruby's apartment, that was challenging. You know, I really enjoyed doing that, from converting from the garage to her place. You know, I really enjoyed doing that, and how it turned out and how it looks. Definitely those places.
Do you find that you enjoy brand new projects more or renovations more, or is it really just?
I think the renovations more.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting.
But earlier this summer, I built up an art studio from scratch, so that went up really quick. So I started just by myself, and I had another guy help me, King by name. So, you know, so it just came out really nice. I still have to finish the interior, but the exterior is all complete. Yeah.
Do you do, so like, for example, with that art studio, will you do mostly everything yourself, or do you have like, I know you have people that work for you, but will you hire like outside people for other things, or do you?
So I have a couple guys who are helping me out, and so we work as a team. And so I, you know, they have their own ways of doing things, but when they come to me, I just have to, you know, do it my way, or, you know, I have to, you know, make sure that it's done properly. You know, everyone has their own ways, but when I'm doing a project, it has to be handled the way, you know, I know the things, how they work, you know.
Yeah.
And if there is some things that I don't know, and if somebody else has a better idea, I just go with that, you know. But me putting so much time in construction for all these years, I think I've gained a lot of experience, and you know, so I just want to utilize that.
Did you, upon like now that you have a little bit more slack in the summer, you have more time for family or fishing and things like that, is that something you've always tried to have, or have you tried to work away from being kind of workaholic, 2 jobs throughout your whole time here, it seems like, and trying to move more into a bit of a, I don't want to say laid back, but being able to enjoy what the island can provide for you?
Yes, so going back to year 2003,
Yep.
when I switched over from Nantucket Island Resorts to something natural, I was really more committed to work, and I knew it was hard to get visas, and, you know, so I really started, you know, making my time, putting my time more into work. And so during that period, so first in the morning I would go to something natural, do my prep, then I would get out of there, do all the prep for the kitchen, and sneak out and then go to my construction job, do that a whole day. 4 o'clock I was done, and then I had a night job at Kitty Murtaugh's for John Keane. So I used to go and be a line cook there all night, you know. And I did that for like a good 6-7 years, nonstop. No beach, no nothing, you know. Just work, work, work. You know, I think that's what made me me now. You know, I could get the house. I could, you know, I could make a good living out here. You know, I didn't plan for it, but it just happened. I was thinking maybe someday I could get a house here back in the year 2003, but it was very hard, you know. And there were times when I left the island looking for places off island, and, you know, and I've not worked anywhere else in US but Nantucket, and so everywhere I went, it was not really, you know, not really. Nantucket was like calling me back, you know. So I could not. It was either going to be Nantucket or going back home to Goa.
Did you ever feel like, was there ever a time for you that you wanted to leave Nantucket for good? Did you ever have those feelings?
Yes, yeah. I think it's a stage everyone goes through, or most people, I'd like to say, because well, there's housing crisis. There's, you know, there's seasons, and but right now I think I'm just committed 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the process like? I'm guessing at the time it was you were with your now wife.
Yeah.
And trying to find your own housing out here. Was that a difficult process?
That was a difficult process, yes. So me and Holly were looking, where I met Holly at Something Natural, you know, in the year 2000, and 2005. We got married in 2007.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we went a couple times off island looking for places. We thought we could not do it here, but it happened, and we are here. And, you know, I just redid my whole house, you know, new windows, new shingles, you know, put an addition on. I just love it.
Do you think that what you were able to do back then, do you think you could see it? Do you think it's only gotten harder over time?
Yes, just like any other place in the world.
Yeah.
The population is growing, you know, everyone is expanding. It's only going to get tougher. Everyone is saying on this island, like, oh, it's so tough to get housing. I mean, this is what was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, but it's only getting worse because there's more businesses, more people coming here, more tourists on the island, which is good. I mean, we have good set of people on the island. You know, it's good environment, but you're gonna always have those problems. You know,
Yeah.
it's Nantucket is a hotspot. You always gonna. Everybody wants to come. Nantucket can hold only so much people.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the cutoff.
Yeah. Have you noticed from your time back then to now, is there any noticeable changes you've noticed on Nantucket, that either for the better or worse?
I think the only change I've seen is it's gotten more busier, you know,
Yeah.
and the seasons have expanded. Back then, in 2001, 3, even 5, I think, come October, it was dead. Like, you know, you wouldn't see anybody on the road. It was so quiet.
Yep.
But that's not happening anymore, you know. There's more people living here year-round, you know. So in those terms, the season has definitely expanded. There's more year-round population here, and there's more tourists coming here, you know, and which is good. I think that's a good thing for the island.
Yeah. Do you harbor the same feelings that it seems like a lot of people, especially this summer, seems to have? Is there's too much traffic, too many cars?
Yes, but I don't really, you know, I'm prepared for it. I know what are the timings, you know,
Yeah.
I have my bike, so
Yeah.
I just choose not to be in traffic, but if I have to be in traffic, so be it, you know, it's part of the deal, you know, you're living on a beautiful place.
Yeah.
You got to pay the price, you know. It's
Yeah.
not going to come free, you know. You have to just relax and take it easy, you know.
What is, in your experience with the Nantucket community, what is your feelings of the kind of small, I don't really want to call it small town community on Nantucket? Do you think it has a strong sense of community, or especially from when you first came out to now, has there been any changes in regards, other than it getting larger year round?
I don't think so. I think Nantucket has good people.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone knows, even though people act like they don't know each other, I think everyone knows each other. They know the faces, you know. There's people who live here year-round, who work all the time. I think in those terms, it is nice, you know. It is nice to be part of Nantucket.
Something I think a lot of people I've noticed have expressed is burnout on the island, just in general, either people who either work too much or they're upset with so many tourists or whatever it may be. Have you ever felt that feeling of burnout, like, God, I
Yes.
want to either get it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, especially in August, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, this August is nice and cool, but when it's really humid and hot, and you know, I think that's where you see more of the, you know, the frustration. But yeah, I think it's part of human. You know, when you push too much, you're gonna have the reaction back. I do have those times, but you know, then it changes quickly. You know, you're back to normal, and you know, you're back with your smiley face. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's the communication. You know, you cannot push. I think Matt Fee is a perfect example. He knows how to balance. You know, he has all these employees, and he keeps everyone afloat. You know.
Yeah.
And I always, in my head, I think he's Mr. Positive. You know, he tries to keep, you know, everyone positive, and he's very helpful in those terms.
Do you also find, Brad had spoken to you priorhand, you had talked about how, like, you kind of, it kind of goes into, you realize that instead of work all the time here, you kind of realize, like, I want to start to take advantage of what the island has to offer, either it be in regards to the beautiful views, the beaches, fishing, things of that nature. And like, was that, when you were finally able to realize that, was that something that kind of turned it around in terms of, instead of bickering or being troubled by all the problems this island could or does have, just enjoying what it has? It's kind of what I had talked to you about earlier, that it seems like that's what you were expressing. I'm not sure if I'm getting it right or not. And is that something that you find to be true, that being able to, instead of work, or allow some time for you to go fishing, or allow some time for you to, I don't know, spend time with your family at the beach, do you think that's helped you avoid the burnout like most
Correct.
people
Yes.
have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So there were times when I was thinking like, okay, we'll sell our house and we'll just leave and go somewhere more relaxing. But I don't think so. There is another place that is more beautiful and more welcoming than Nantucket. And surrounded by beautiful people, and it's just beautiful out here. So during those times, Matt is the one who talked to me, and he's like, listen, you can do a lot of stuff here. You can not only just work, but you can take some time off. You can go to the beach, you can go fishing, and come back and still go back to work, and you can do multiple things in a day. So I really took that from him, and I just started to do those things, and it makes a big difference. And so I just wake up early and I'll go to work, and then there's times I'll just take off a couple hours in the afternoon. I'll go fish or just go bike. Or
what's your go-to fishing spot?
I like all the way out by Sanford Farm.
Okay.
If you go Sanford Farm out there's no one out there, and I just like that spot because in the summer, everywhere there's people, and I just want to be safe. I just don't want to hurt somebody with the hook or things like that. But I do go on other places. My favorite spot is Sanford Farm, and then I like Eel Point.
Okay. Yep.
Eel
Point's a
Point,
classic.
yeah.
What's your favorite? Are you more of like if you had to pick, are you more of a stripers in July and August, or are you like a false albacore in September kind of guy?
Actually, I've never caught a false albacore. That's one species. I just I just want to keep it aside because that keeps me okay. I gotta go get that one.
Yep.
But I like striped bass.
Yeah.
Especially early in the season, I caught few,
Yeah.
but this summer, I haven't really gone fishing much this year, but maybe soon. But I like striped bass.
And did you start fishing growing up? Growing up, living you have a restaurant by the beach. I can only assume you guys must have been fishing around then.
So my father had a fishing trawler.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my mom always tells me the day when I was born, they had tons of squid, So it's and so I've been fishing there back home, but it's a lot different than here.
Really?
Yeah.
For better or worse?
For worse. You have to go more further out, and
Yeah.
you have to really spend more time. But here is a lot easier to fish, especially surf casting. That's my favorite. It just to me is amazing to go and catch striped bass or bonita, bluefish. I just love it. Bonita is another species I really like to catch. I've caught a few of those.
Yeah, it is like, I will say the fishing out here is like one of, I think it also kind of ties into just the beach. The beaches are so beautiful. It's hard not to enjoy it because it's like you're surrounded by beauty. And I'm shocked you've never gone. Do you fish year round, or is it just a summer activity for you?
I do year round, sort of, yeah.
Is there when you have the slack in the summer, other than fishing, what else consumes your time for hobbies?
Hobbies, I think mostly work.
Yeah, work. Or
Mostly
the kids,
work.
I would assume the family.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gotta.
I just tweak my brain. That's my hobby, because being out here, you need to pay your bills, and I like to pay my bills. I'm not one of the person I just can't stay owing somebody, or I just if I have to do something, I just like to work a lot. Yeah. I guess it's hard to really say because you probably never had to raise kids anywhere else, but do you find it more difficult to have to raise kids on an island? Yes, initially it was hard financially because it's not cheap. So the job what I was doing was, to have daycare, it's a lot expensive on the island, and plus it's hard to get, So initially it was hard, but now things are, now they are, you know, in school, and so it's a lot better. Yeah.
Do you find that the extracurricular activities out here are sufficient for kids? I've
Yes.
heard that as being, some people have had, it's just, I don't know, it's that it's difficult, I guess, that it's to keep kids busy out here is what is.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. Me coming from India and with 1.5
fair.
billion population, I'm comparing to those things,
Yeah.
So my kids, they are happy, and they do soccer.
Yeah.
Holly is coaching them, so they got their hands on, Yeah, so.
What was it for you growing up? What was your hobbies as a kid? Compared to now looking at your kids, their hobbies, how different are they?
So that's a tough one. My hobbies was, I think still back then I've been like more work-oriented person. I've been like always, doing something
Yeah.
or the other, like helping my dad,
Yep.
with the house, or that was always stuff to do in the restaurant. And my dad was like always pushy,
Yep.
we were not allowed to watch television, none of that. Now I see my kids, I wake up and they're already on the TV, it's totally different, and I cannot say anything, it's a different world we live in. So I was brought up differently. We could not do certain things, it had to make sense.
So is it kind of, is it tough to like, I don't know, it's like growing up how you grew up and then seeing your kids grow up whenever they complain? Do you do the classic my father used to do? He's like, listen, if you grew up like I grew up, you wouldn't imagine, be happy with like what you have.
Well, my 12, now she's going to be 13-year-old Amelia. Yeah, she has quick answers. I can't talk to her in those terms, Yeah, so it's different.
Oh, that's awesome. Is it, you were talking a bit about your wife, Holly. She coaches your kids.
Yes.
That's awesome. What would you be okay with? What is it that Holly does out here?
She is a paralegal.
Oh, awesome.
She works for Sarah Alger, and she does coach the kids.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and she has another job she's doing online that she's always busy doing that at nights.
Yep.
I don't know what she does, but she's
Stays
communicating
busy.
and talking, and I don't want to ask her, but she's doing, she's getting paid for it, so she's doing it.
Yeah, that was it difficult? There was somebody who I had talked to recently who you had brought it up briefly, but the main reason they moved off island was because they both were working out here and they couldn't find daycare for their children. And you had talked about how expensive it is. Is it difficult just in the summer, or is it a year-round problem for daycare, just finding people to take care of your kids? Did you find that incredibly cost prohibitive, and did you also find it difficult to even find, or was there plenty of people available? It just had to do with, can you afford them?
So yeah, I think somehow maybe looking now and looking what people hear, what I hear from people now, I think back then maybe it was easier. Maybe now things have gotten more tighter. But yes, it was expensive, but Nantucket prices, it's different. But it wasn't too difficult for us to get.
Did you have to participate in? I've heard it so many times. I still don't entirely know. Did you ever participate in the Nantucket Shuffle, trying to move around with housing or things of that nature? Have you always been lucky to have a steady?
Always been lucky to have a
Really?
steady.
That's good.
Yeah.
I had heard that before. People like to just call it the Nantucket Shuffle, which is I'm guessing is like come summertime you move somewhere else, and then in the winter you move somewhere else.
Yes, I hear those stories too. But
Yeah.
and I was always listening to those, and when I got the housing, I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to be a good person.
Yeah.
Taking care of things and doing sensible stuff.
Coming up slightly towards the end of this interview, I ask a big final question. But before then, if you're interested, I'll do some quick fire questions.
Sure.
So first thing that comes to mind, whatever you, right off the dome, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Keep moving.
Keep moving. Okay, good one. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
It's a tough one.
I know. Living, dead, friends, family, could be anybody in the world. Pass?
Pass. Yeah.
All right. What's one thing you haven't accomplished yet on your bucket list?
Going to Alaska.
Oh, okay. Good one. Yeah. I know a bit about that. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of your favorite spot on island? Can't be your house.
The Sanford Farm Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
North Shore or South Shore beaches?
I like South Shore.
Really? You're the first person to say South Shore. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. What's your favorite way to unwind and relax after a long day?
Just go biking.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, the last question. It's a doozy. It's very long, and yeah, it's a very long question. You pick whatever you want to, however you want to answer it.
Okay.
Same question to ask everybody. What do you envision for the future of Nantucket, considering its rich history, unique character, and the evolving challenge it faces? What are your thoughts on how the island can preserve its cultural heritage while embracing progress and addressing the needs of both residents and visitors? An easy question, really, just super simple. Yeah. How can we fix the island and make sure it stays good for the future?
I think this island is fixed. You know, I think there is no problems, but the problems what we face on the other side are just like, you know, this island can only hold so many people and so many, you know, so many tourists and so many businesses. You know, I feel like it is at a perfect stand right now. Things could get really worse, you know. I mean, no matter what, people are gonna complain. You know, it's gonna be never perfect. You know, to me it is perfect because I love it the way it is. You know, I mean, things could be worse. You know, but I like it the way it is.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of Nantucket?
Optimistic.
Always. That's so far it's 11 for 11 with optimism. I don't think I've got a negative person yet that said this place is crumbling and falling apart. Is there anything? Do you worry about the future of anything, of like homes becoming too unaffordable or the cars becoming too many or X, Y, Z, or do you think it'll all kind of figure itself out?
I think it will figure itself out. People like, so whoever is saying, okay, there's too many cars, too many people. I think people are saying that, and some people won't return back. Some people won't have jobs, you know. So it's always been, you know, I don't think so it's gonna go really crazy unless you start building huge buildings here, you know, like apartment buildings and stuff. Then it's gonna be different. You know, it's not gonna be Nantucket what we see today. I mean, if you want to have housing for everyone, then it's totally changing the dynamic of the island. You know, I think you know, it's a beautiful place. You know, you gotta just relax and enjoy it.
Is there, actually, I have one last question that I'm curious that I would like to ask you. Do you think that they should raise, I think it's capped at 27 feet in town maybe, is the height of the buildings? I could be wrong. This might be an arbitrary number. Do you think they should allow it to be raised a little higher so you could do a third floor? Things that, you know, buildings, or do you think that it's perfect the way it is?
That's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
I like the way it is.
Yeah.
You know.
That's fair.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, just curious. I know that's a big debate. It's like if you go higher, you can build a third story on all the homes, but then it's like, do you want a third story?
Then you're allowing, you know, I mean, it might be good for jobs and stuff, but that's going to attract more people, more traffic, more cars. So if you want more cars, more people, then please go ahead, you know.
Yeah.
But I just like the way it is right now.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much for everybody who attended. I truly appreciate it. Of course. Yeah.
Have your parents ever come to Nantucket?
Have your parents asked?
My mom has. My father passed away in 2013.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
but
I just want to say I have another solution. What you should do next. You need to be a teacher.
thank you. I'll think about it. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate everybody for coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank
And,
you.